Welcome back to the deep dive. It is great to have you with us.
Great to be here.
So today we're going to do something a little different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're stepping away from, the purely abstract, and we're dropping you right into a scene.
Okay.
A scene that feels like it was ripped straight out of some kind of, I don't know, a noir tech thriller.
I'm intrigued. You have to set the stage for us.
Okay, so I want you to picture it because the setting really, really matters for the vibe of what we're discussing today. It's late night, the lighting is low, it's amber-hued, maybe a little bit smoky.
Classic.
You can hear the clinking of, heavy ice in crystal glasses, maybe a low hum of a jazz bass line in the background. It's very atmospheric.
It sets the stage perfectly. It's
Yeah.
that classic meeting of the minds environment, the backroom deal.
Exactly. And in this booth, tucked away in the corner, you have two people.
Right.
But they're not talking about sports or politics or their messy divorces.
Yeah.
They are hunched over a single laptop screen, and the blue light is reflecting on their faces. And the tension between them is just absolutely palpable.
It's electric.
It is.
So it's one of those high-stakes conversations that's disguised as just a casual drink.
Perfectly put.
If you walked past them, you'd probably just think, oh, it's two colleagues arguing about work.
Right. Some deadline.
Yeah, exactly. But as we're going to peel back the layers today, what looks like a technical squabble over a few lines of code, it's actually a really profound debate.
A debate about what?
About power, about ownership, and, maybe even the very soul of the software we use every single day.
That's a massive claim. The soul of software.
It is, but I think it holds up.
And once you get into the heads of these characters, it really does start to make sense. So let's introduce them. First, we have Marcus. The source material paints this really vivid picture of him. He's an architect, and he wears his experience in the subtle gray at his temples.
Okay, so he's seasoned.
Very. And it says he looks at a code base like a map of a territory he's already conquered.
I love that description. That is so evocative.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it gives you this immediate sense of someone who's seen it all.
Right.
He's not, the young hotshot chasing the newest shiny framework.
Right, whatever's popular this week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's a veteran. He's likely survived the dot-com bubble, the whole Web 2.0 shift, the mobile revolution.
Yeah.
He knows where the bodies are buried, so to speak.
So his confidence comes from scars, not just arrogance.
That's a great way to put it, yes.
He's the old guard, but in the best possible way. And then sitting across from him, or maybe she's leaning over his shoulder, is Elara.
By Elara.
She's described as sharp, brilliant, and in this specific moment, she is very much the antagonist.
She's the skeptic.
Absolutely. She's looking at his work with this mix of fascination and, frankly, just pure judgment.
And that judgment is the spark.
Right.
That's where our whole story begins.
It is.
Elara looks at the screen. At this project Marcus has been hyping up as, high fidelity and deep architecture, and she essentially just laughs in his face.
She calls it a toy.
A toy. Ouch.
That is the inciting incident. That has to sting, coming from someone brilliant.
For sure.
But to understand why she says that and why it matters to us, we have to look at what she's actually seeing on that screen.
Okay, let's break it down. What does she see?
The source mentions a single-file index. It's pure vanilla JavaScript.
Yep.
There's no React, no heavy backend infrastructure, no complex frameworks, just raw code.
In a modern development context, that is almost shocking.
Shocking.
Yeah. It's like walking into a Michelin star kitchen and seeing the chef cooking with a campfire and a stick.
Okay, help us understand that shock a bit more. For the listener who might not be a software engineer, why is seeing vanilla JavaScript such a red flag for Elara? Why does she immediately jump to toy?
That's a crucial question. So in modern web development, we have built up these massive, complex ecosystems. You almost never write raw code anymore.
You don't.
Rarely, for a big project, you use frameworks like React, Angular, or Vue. And these are essentially giant scaffolding structures.
Scaffolding.
Yeah, they handle all the plumbing, the wiring, the structural integrity of the application. They are specifically designed to manage complexity for you.
So they're like the heavy machinery of construction. You're talking cranes, cement mixers, bulldozers.
That's the perfect analogy. And Elara expects to see a construction site filled with cranes and bulldozers.
Right. That's what professional looks like to her.
Exactly. She equates professional with complicated. She expects layers of abstraction, sophisticated build tools, a massive folder structure with hundreds of files.
But instead,
Instead, she sees Marcus with a hammer and a bag of nails.
yeah,
It just looks so stripped down. Her immediate assumption is that it has to lack depth.
It's too simple to be serious.
Yes. She accuses him of building a toy because it doesn't have the heavy machinery she expects to see in a typical enterprise application.
Then she actually gets pretty cutting with it. The source says she asks him, are we too cheap to build a proper API?
Which is a direct hit, a real low blow in that world.
Explain why that's such a jab. What's an API in this context?
An API, an application programming interface, is it's usually the bridge. It's the go-between connecting the user screen to all the heavy servers in the background. It's standard practice.
So it's like the waiter in the restaurant taking your order to the kitchen.
A very good way to think of it. And by asking if they're too cheap for one, she's implying that this simplicity is just a result of budget cuts.
Or laziness.
Or incompetence. She thinks he's cutting corners.
So the core question we're exploring today is really this. Why would a seasoned architect like Marcus, someone who has conquered the territory, someone who knows better, build something that looks like a beginner's homework assignment?
Why bring a knife to a gunfight? And the answer, as we're about to discover, is that he didn't bring a knife. He brought a philosophy.
A philosophy.
He calls it the Sovereign Substrate.
Sovereign Substrate. It sounds cool. I'll give him that. It sounds almost like a sci-fi government or some kind of secret society. But let's unpack what that actually means.
Right.
Because Marcus isn't just cutting corners, is he? He's making a deliberate choice.
Not at all. In fact, he argues that what looks like a shortcut, it's actually the only way to build what he calls a fortress.
From toy to fortress, that's quite a leap.
It is. He believes that the modern way of building software, with all those cranes and heavy machinery, it actually traps the user.
It traps them. How?
We're going to break down the 3 axioms he lays out to Elara. These are like 3 core rules that turn this toy into a revolutionary way of thinking about your data.
Okay, I'm ready. We've got intelligence is local, the substrate is a witness, and velocity is derived from decoupling.
It sounds technical, I know.
It does, but I have a feeling it's less about code and more about something else.
It is. And trust me, by the end of this, you're going to look at that sync button on your phone very, very differently.
Okay, let's do it.
So let's dive in. Back to the bar. Elara is, still tracing the code with her finger, still kind of mocking it.
And Marcus flips the script.
He does. He looks at her and says, "You're seeing a toy because it's fast. I'm seeing the only way to keep the promise I made to you."
That stops her. And that promise, that's our bridge to Axiom 1. The intelligence is local.
This is it. This is the foundation of everything that follows.
Okay.
Marcus tells her, the pulse belongs to the user, not the provider.
The pulse. That is such a visceral way to talk about data, isn't it?
It really is.
He's not talking about database rows or JSON objects. He's talking about the heartbeat of the application. What's he mean by the pulse?
It is visceral, and that's intentional. So think about the standard model we all use today. We call it cloud first or provider first. When you open an app, let's say a task manager or a document editor on your phone, the brain of that app usually lives on a server. It's in a data center somewhere in Virginia or Dublin or wherever.
Right. My phone is just a screen. It's basically a fancy remote control for a giant computer that's halfway around the world.
Exactly. You are a remote terminal. When you click a button to add a task or save a note, you are sending a signal to that server.
A request.
A request. The server receives it, it thinks about it, it processes it, it decides if you are allowed to do that, saves it, and then sends an answer back.
And all of that happens in a split second. Usually.
Usually. But that round trip, that's the pulse. The actual life of the app is happening over there, not here on your device.
And we all know what happens when that pulse gets interrupted. If I lose my internet connection or if their server goes down.
The pulse stops. The app is effectively dead.
Yeah, you get the spinning wheel of death.
Right. It might let you look at old data if you're lucky. But the intelligence, the ability to do work, to compute, to process, is gone. You are completely helpless.
So this is where Marcus's metaphor gets really interesting. He says, if I had built this server side first, I'd be keeping your heart in my pocket.
That is slightly terrifying when you visualize it.
It is, but it makes the point so clearly. It highlights the power dynamic.
It absolutely does. If the intelligence is on the server, the architect, the company, they own the user's experience. The provider holds the heart.
And they can squeeze it, they can stop it, they can decide to start charging you rent for it.
Exactly. And this is where the vanilla JS, that simple raw code that Elara called a toy, this is where it comes in.
Okay, connect the dots for me.
By making the intelligence local, Marcus is writing code that runs entirely on Elara's device. The logic, the rules, the whole decision-making process, it's all happening right there on the silicon in front of her.
So he's not keeping the heart in his pocket.
He's giving the heart back to the user.
He calls it being born sovereign.
Born sovereign. I love that phrase. It means its default state, its birthright, is independence.
It doesn't need the server to function.
Correct. It doesn't need Marcus to exist. As he puts it, it only needs me to remember.
I want to pause on that distinction because it feels so crucial. It doesn't need me to exist. That is what true ownership looks like, isn't it?
It is the absolute definition of digital ownership. I mean, think about it. Think about the software you subscribe to right now.
Okay.
If that startup goes bust tomorrow, or if they get acquired by a bigger company and shut down, or if they just decide they don't like you anymore and they ban your account, what happens to your work?
Uh-oh.
What happens to all your data?
It evaporates. Poof. It's just gone. I've had that happen.
We all have. You are renting functionality. You are renting access to your own digital life.
Yeah, renting my own life.
But in Marcus's model, if his company disappears, the app on Elara's computer just keeps working. The logic is local. The data is local. The intelligence is sitting right there with her.
So that's why he calls it a fortress.
It's a fortress because it is self-sufficient. It can survive a siege.
Yeah.
It doesn't need supply lines from the outside world to function.
So, in a way, stripping away the heavy backend wasn't about being cheap at all.
Not even a little bit.
It was about creating a system that couldn't be taken away from the user. It was a moral stance disguised as a technical choice.
Precisely.
Yeah.
He didn't want to build a system where the user is fundamentally dependent on him. He wanted a system where the user is autonomous.
That's the local intelligence.
That's it. And it's not just about speed, though. I mean, it is incredibly fast because there's no network lag to deal with.
Right. Instantaneous.
But it's really about the philosophy. It's about who holds the power in the relationship between the user and the software.
So Elara starts to get it. The source says her gaze softens. She realizes this isn't a toy. She sees it's a fortress. She's seeing the walls going up, not to lock her out, but to protect her.
A fortress of privacy and autonomy. Because if the intelligence is local, the data doesn't have to leave your device to be useful. It can stay safely inside the walls.
Okay, but this leads us to a massive practical problem. And I think this is where a lot of listeners might be saying, okay, that sounds very noble, Marcus, but I live in the real world.
Right.
If the app is totally local, totally on my device, how do we sync? How does it talk to my other devices?
A sync problem.
Yes.
This is the big one. We live in a multi-device world. I start writing something on my laptop. I want to be able to pick up my phone on the train and finish it.
Exactly. And if my data is trapped in a fortress on my laptop, that's not actually very useful. It's secure, sure, but it's isolated. It's a prison.
Secure but useless. Yes. So we need the cloud. We need that connectivity.
But Marcus just said the cloud is the enemy, or at least it's the place where we lose our sovereignty.
You do.
So how does he square that circle? How do you have a fortress that also, talks to the rest of the world?
And that question brings us perfectly to Axiom 2.
Okay, lay it on me.
The substrate is a witness, not a master.
Okay, witness, not master. Break that down for us, because usually in the tech world, we talk about the master database. That is literally the industry term.
It is the master or the source of truth. In a traditional app, the database is the boss. It is the dictator.
Okay.
If you want to change your profile picture, your phone has to politely ask the database, may I please change this?
It's like asking a bouncer to let you into a club. You have to show your ID, you have to be on the list.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
The database checks your credentials, it checks the validation rules, it checks if you have enough storage space, it decides if the change is allowed.
And if it says no?
Then it's no. But if it approves, it updates its own record first, and then it tells your phone, okay, you can show the new picture now. The database commanded that change.
So the state of my application, what I see on my screen, is determined by the server.
Correct. Your phone is just displaying whatever the server tells it to display.
And Marcus is proposing the exact opposite.
The polar opposite. In his architecture, the source of truth is the device in your hand.
My phone is the boss.
You are the boss. You change the picture. Your device says, this is the new reality. The picture is changed. It doesn't ask for permission. It asserts a fact.
And then what?
Then and only then does it inform the cloud.
So it's not asking, it's telling. It's just saying, hey, just so you know, this happened.
Yes, exactly. The cloud, which he calls the substrate, it just writes it down. It records the event. It bears witness.
So it's like a diary, Or maybe a court reporter just taking down the transcript?
A notary is the analogy he uses, and I think it's perfect.
A notary, okay.
Think about what a notary does. When you go to a notary to sign a contract, they don't read the contract and decide if it's a good business deal for you.
Right. They don't care.
They don't check your spelling. They don't have an opinion on the content at all.
They just stamp it.
They simply witness that you signed it on this date at this time. They certify that the event happened. That's what Marcus's cloud does.
And this connects back to the development process. He says, I didn't want to nurse a backend into existence while the UI was still finding its soul.
That is a beautiful line for any developer who's listening. Nurse a backend into existence. He's talking about the pain of building all those complex server rules.
Right.
If the server is a master, it has to be incredibly smart. It has to know all the business logic. It has to know that a user can have a profile, but only if the account is active and the subscription is paid.
All those rules.
You have to code all of that logic twice. Once on the phone for the UI to feel fast, and once on the server for security and validation. It's a nightmare to keep in sync.
But if the server's just a witness...
It gets to stay dumb. And in software engineering, dumb is a massive compliment.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The dumb server is a reliable server. It doesn't need to know how the app works. It doesn't care if you're building a to-do list or a novel writing tool. It just needs to know how to store encrypted blobs of data.
So it just says, okay, Elara made a change. I will write that down so her other devices can read it later.
That's the entire job. It doesn't command, it only notarizes.
This is a huge shift, a massive philosophical shift. It means all the intelligence, the logic, the rules, the features can all live in that toy code on the laptop.
And the server remains a neutral utility. It's just infrastructure, not authority.
So Elara points out the paradox here, which I think is just brilliant. She says, you're using the fastest possible build to enforce the slowest, most rigid architectural constraint.
She's so sharp. She's referring to the vanilla JS. It's fast to write, it's fast to run on the device.
Right.
But the constraint sovereignty is incredibly rigid. It's actually so much easier to just let the server do everything.
It is.
Oh, yeah. We have incredible tools. You might have heard of them. Things like Firebase, Supabase, AWS, Amplify, that make building master servers incredibly easy. You can spin one up in 10 minutes.
So Marcus intentionally took the hard road.
The much harder road. He had to build a custom sync engine, a whole system to make sure the user stays in control and that the server stays a witness.
It's like building a house with hand tools, because you want to make sure every single joint is perfect.
Yes.
Rather than just 3D printing the whole thing from a template.
That's it. He is prioritizing the principle over the convenience.
He's prioritizing the user's freedom over his own ease of development.
Precisely. He is accepting a technical burden building this witness system in order to preserve a human right ownership. He's saying, I will work harder so you can be freer.
And that leads us to the payoff. Why do all this? Why go through all this trouble?
What's the big advantage?
Marcus explains it with Axiom 3. Velocity is derived from decoupling.
Velocity is derived from decoupling. Now, I know when we hear a word like decoupling in tech, eyes start to glaze over.
Yeah, it sounds like corporate buzzword bingo.
It totally does.
Yeah.
But Marcus, he makes it sound like an action movie.
He really does. He says, because the toy is the reference, we can pivot the entire vision before the ice in your glass melts.
I mean, that visual, the melting ice, that implies extreme speed. We're not talking weeks or months. We're talking minutes or hours to change the entire direction of the product.
So how does this architecture allow for that kind of speed?
Okay, here's why this works. In a traditional app, let's say you want to change a major feature. Let's say you want to turn your to-do list app into a grocery shopping app.
Okay. So instead of a task, I need an item. I need to add a price field, maybe a quantity.
Right. In a normal master server system, that's a huge undertaking. First, you have to rewrite the database schema to accept price and quantity.
Which is a delicate operation.
Very. Then you have to rewrite the API that talks to the database. Then you have to update the middleware security rules to validate those new numbers. And then finally, after all that server work, you can update the front-end app.
It's a massive coordinated effort. It's like trying to turn a giant tanker ship around.
It's slow because the back end and the front end are tied together. They are tightly coupled. You can't move one without carefully moving the other.
They're handcuffed to each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Marcus has decoupled them because his back end is just a dumb witness. It doesn't care what the front end is doing.
It doesn't.
It has no idea. You want to change the app from a to-do list to a novel writing software? Fine, go for it. The front end just starts sending different kinds of data to the server.
And the backend just says,
It just says, okay, I'll store this new stuff.
so you don't even have to touch the server code.
You barely touch it. The server's just storing these encrypted blobs of data. It doesn't know or care what's inside them. This allows the front end, the part the user actually touches and experiences, to evolve at lightning speed.
So he's not fighting a legacy backend. He's not sitting around waiting for the server team to update the API.
None of that.
Yeah.
He says, we aren't fighting a legacy backend, we're just refining the membrane.
The membrane. That's another new term he throws in there. It sounds biological organic. What do you think he means by that?
It's a fascinating metaphor, isn't it? Think of a single cell in your body. The membrane is the boundary between the organism and its environment. It's what gives the cell its shape, but it's also flexible.
Okay.
In this case, the code, the vanilla.js, the UI, is the membrane. It's the flexible living interface between the user's intent and the digital world.
And because it's just a membrane, it's adaptable, it can stretch, it can change shape, it can evolve without breaking the skeleton underneath.
Yes. The toy code is actually a highly adaptable skin. Marcus is saying that by stripping away the complexity of big frameworks and heavy server logic, he has made the application fluid. He can iterate instantly. He can change the soul of the UI without asking the server for permission.
This connects back to something we talked about before, the Formula One versus bicycle idea.
How so?
A Formula One car is incredibly fast and complex, but it only works on a perfect flat track. It's rigid. A bicycle, or in this case, this toy code, can go anywhere. It can go off-road. It can go down a narrow alleyway.
That's a perfect way to put it. Complexity creates rigidity. Simplicity creates agility. Marcus is saying, I can move faster than the giant tech companies because I haven't buried myself in their concrete.
He hasn't poured a foundation that he can't move.
He's built a tent. He can pack it up and move it anywhere, anytime.
So let's recap the scene now. We've gone through the axioms. Elara, who started this whole thing completely skeptical, mocking the code,
Calling it a toy.
she's now looking at him very differently. The source says there's a flicker of something more than professional respect in her eyes.
And you can see why. She realizes she's looking at a masterpiece of restraint.
Restraint.
She sees that the simplicity wasn't laziness, it was discipline. It takes a lot more skill and confidence to write a concise poem than a rambling 800-page essay.
And she sees that Marcus has written a poem in code.
I think so. She realizes that what she first saw as a weakness, the lack of complexity, is actually its ultimate strength.
And that leads to her big aha moment. The ultimate realization about sync. She looks at the screen, she processes everything we just discussed, the local intelligence, the witness substrate, the velocity, and she says, so if I hit sync on this thing, I'm not giving you my data, I'm just letting you witness it.
That right there, that single line, is the crux of the entire sovereign substrate philosophy.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you my data.
Let's pause on that for a second, because I think most of us, when we hit sync or backup, we intuitively feel like we're handing something over.
We are.
It's a transaction. Here, Google, take my photos. Here, Apple, take my notes.
We trade ownership for convenience. We are effectively saying, I cannot take care of this myself, so please, you take it.
And we don't think about the implications of that?
No. In doing so, we grant them a license to scan it, to analyze it, to mine it for ad targeting, and potentially to lock us out of it if we violate a term of service we never even read.
We become tenants in our own digital lives.
That's exactly it. But Elara realizes that here, in this architecture, the trade is different. She retains ownership.
She remains the owner.
She is the origin. And Marcus confirms this explicitly. He looks at her and says, you're the origin. I'm just the substrate.
You're the origin.
Yeah.
That gives me chills. It puts the human being back at the center of the digital universe.
It does.
It's not user number 4592. It's the origin.
It completely reverses the hierarchy we've all grown accustomed to. We are so used to the user being the consumer or the end point of the system.
Right, the bottom of the pyramid.
But in the world Marcus has built, the architect serves the user. The cloud serves the device. The substrate is at your service.
It changes the entire act of Sing from a transfer of assets to a request for safekeeping. It's a relationship built on trust, not on dependency.
And I think that's why Elara closes the laptop at the end. The debate is over.
She gets it.
She doesn't argue anymore. She accepts the philosophy. She understands that the toy is the only truly honest way to build software in a world that constantly tries to capture and monetize our attention and our data.
It's a moment of connection, really. She sees that he respects her, not just as a colleague, but as a human being with a right to her own thoughts, her own data.
And let's be honest, the text implies there's a little spark there. Intellectual intimacy is a powerful thing.
It really
When you
is.
find someone who sees the world the way you do, or who can show you a completely new and better way to see it, that creates a powerful bond.
She even offers to buy the next round of drinks. Since you've saved so much time with your paradox, I assume your schedule is open.
A happy ending, fueled by good architecture, and yeah, a little flirting fueled by mutual intellectual respect.
The best kind, really. So let's zoom out for a second. We've unpacked the 3 axioms of the sovereign substrate. Let's make sure we have these locked in for everyone listening, because these are concepts you can actually apply when you're looking at any piece of tech.
Right. Let's do a quick recap. Axiom 1.
Intelligence is local.
The app lives and thinks on your device. The pulse is yours. If the internet dies, your work survives. You're in control.
Okay. Axiom 2.
The substrate is a witness. The cloud records, but it doesn't rule. It's a notary, not a boss. It serves you, it doesn't command you.
And finally, axiom 3.
Velocity from decoupling. The real speed, the agility, comes from separating the user experience from the server's constraints.
Yeah.
You can move fast because you aren't dragging a heavy backend anchor with you.
And when you combine all 3, you get this beautiful concept of the sovereign substrate. But I want to ask you, as our expert guide here, why does this matter to the learner? To you listening right now? This is a fictional story about 2 coders in a bar. But is it just fiction? Or is there a real tangible lesson here for how we should treat our digital tools?
It matters so much because it represents a fork in the road for technology.
A fork in the road.
Yeah, we are currently heading down a path where we own almost nothing.
The subscription economy. Everything is a service.
Exactly. Our music is leased, our movies are streamed, our documents live in someone else's cloud. We pay monthly fees to access our own memories.
And if the provider decides to turn off the tap,
We lose everything. We're just renting our digital lives. We're becoming, in a sense, digital serfs on land owned by a handful of tech feudal lords. And that land can be sold right out from under us.
it happens all the time. Services shut down. Terms of service change overnight. Prices get hiked. But Marcus, in this story, he's offering a glimpse of the other path.
The path of sovereignty.
Yes, a path where technology amplifies our capabilities without confiscating our agency. Where software is a tool we wield like a hammer or a pen, not a service we have to beg for access to.
It's a reminder that simple code can support very complex human rights like privacy and ownership.
It can.
It's funny, isn't it? We started this whole deep dive looking at a single file of vanilla.js, and we were thinking, along with Elara, that it was primitive, a toy. And by the end, it looks like the most advanced, most sophisticated thing in the room.
Because sometimes the most sophisticated step forward is to strip away everything that isn't absolutely essential, to go back to the basics. A user, a device, and an idea.
Complexity is a hiding place. It often is. It's a hiding place for bad design, or sometimes for bad intentions. Simplicity is where the truth lives.
It makes me want to look at the apps on my phone right now and just ask, who really owns this? Does this app work for me, or do I work for it?
And that is the right question to be asking. Every time you download something, every time you sign up for a service, you should be asking, where is the intelligence? Is it local or is it remote? Who holds my pulse?
So here is the thought we want to leave you with today. It's something for you to think about the next time you pick up your phone. When you press that sync button, or when you see that little spinning wheel backing up your photos or your notes, ask yourself this.
Are you asking for a witness to protect what is yours? Or are you handing over your heart to a master?
That's a heavy thought to end on. But hey, that's why we take the deep dive. Thanks for listening, everyone.
See you next time.